Yo, that's
Um,
is that your thing? Is that your like handle? Politics with?
yeah, that's the name of that. Yeah,
Dude, that's gonna be worth millions one day, bro.
right. That's what me and my friends when we made it. We were
You're
like, this is such a
genius.
good idea.
Oh, dude, this is amazing. You're literally gonna be able to get as this grows, you're gonna get more and more people. This is awesome.
Yeah, man, it's
So how do
great.
I get the chat thing going here? Do I just hit chat? Sorry, I never done it. Oh, there we go.
No, yeah, yeah. You should be able to see chat as soon whenever you want. Let me give me a second.
Okay, it looks like we got some. So all the people watching right now are the people to the left.
Yeah, I think it
Or
should be. I'm not on the I'm not on like the Twitch stream itself because what I'm streaming from the program Streamlabs, I can see it like myself.
oh, okay.
So,
All right.
but I think it should be. You should be able to see chat pretty much.
Uh,
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, one of my friends just commented right now. But yeah, so we could just wait a little bit and then you can introduce yourself. Is that good?
yeah, let me know when this is all I'm on your stream, so you let
Yeah,
me
yeah,
know
for sure.
whatever.
Let me just wait a couple minutes. I'll get. Let me just post on
Okay, this is a live podcast.
on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I'm not seeing any. It just says it's empty in here. Maybe I
Oh,
gotta.
really? Still.
Yeah. I see 15 people are in here though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that should be good then. It says 15 viewers.
Yeah, but it just says it's empty in here, so I don't know if anyone said anything yet.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, dude, that Pennsylvania is really going to be interesting. I think that's what it's really going to come down to. If
Yeah.
so, that link that you sent me, that's it's the link to the Twitch, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
The
cool.
stream. The what like everybody else will be seeing when they're watching. Okay, yeah, I think we have like a good number of people now. Yeah, you can
No,
just
it's not.
introduce yourself.
It's on Twitch. It's just twitch.com/politicswith.
It's .tv.
Oh, .tv.
Yeah.
Twitch.tv/politicswith. Oh, my wife, she wanted to listen.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so Twitch .tv/politicswith. Sorry, dude. So yeah, hey, I'm Parm Johal. I guess 29 years old. I'd like to think I'm a moderate. I lean more right now as I'm getting older, but I'd probably say I'm more the libertarian route. I got my MBA, finished that this year. I still am a cop. I'm hoping to transition into being a teacher, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. So, and this is one of my best friend's little cousins. He asked me to hop on. So obviously we're going to keep it respectful, and hopefully we could open up some ideas.
Yeah, all right, sounds good. So pretty much, let's just start by pretty much why did you think why did you choose to vote for Trump?
For me, it's not easy. I don't think any Trump supporter is going to defend the way he talks or speaks. There was stuff that even when I was a younger, 4 years ago, still a long time ago, when he was speaking, I was like, what the hell is he saying? Why is this guy saying it? But I like his policies. And I think if you ask a lot of people that voted for Trump, it's mostly for the policies he enacted. And I didn't like all of his appointees. Like, the Secretary Czar wasn't really, I don't think she should have got the job, but that's political favor. But I really love the fact that he put Ben Carson in with HUD. I work closely with HUD. There's a lot of programs that I work on him with, and I think he's really taking on the approach. That was my pick, by the way. I really wanted Ben Carson to go, but just a little too soft-spoken, but great guy. But anyways, there was that. I love the fact that, he actually put pressure on China. If you go to my page and if you guys know about the concentration camps that are popping up, he's putting pressure on them. I love the fact that he actually, opened up business. He removed a lot of red tape. The fact that obviously he lowered taxes, which I think even under a Clinton administration, by the way, taxes would have been lowered because it's a global fight, right? Because if you don't provide this for a company, they would relocate. So it's not 100% him, but he did, push that forward. And there's also a sense of putting America first, man. And the reason why I believe in this more is we need to strengthen ourselves because I think we are the last hope. You know, you look at like someone like China, who's gonna be a superpower, right? And I don't think there's anything stopping them. I think we are the last beacon, and we've done a lot of wrong. This nation is not perfect by any means, but I look around and I'm like, who else is going to pick up this fight for freedom? I don't think a lot of people are. I don't think this nation's ever going to be perfect. I don't think any nation's ever going to be perfect. But us compared to a lot of other nations, I think we do a lot of things right. And when I looked at Clinton's values, I just saw she's a little bit more aggressive. Okay, I saw her time as Secretary of State, and I think, for example, issue like Syria that popped up. I believe we would have put boots on the ground in Syria had Clinton been president. And I'm tired of seeing people die. I'm tired of seeing, you know, our citizens get sent over for stuff that we don't need to be with. And one of the problems was it was energy, right? Like if you think about it, a lot of the time we went into Iraq, whenever it was to, you know, destabilize and get the resources there, and also to have a foothold there. And I feel like there's always better ways to go about that, right? And Trump opened it up for the first time ever. America was an exporter of energy. Now, there's also always going to be a debate that says, you know, we need to go green, and I agree with it. And even if you don't agree with the global warming or whatever, you got to agree with the fact that there's only so much damn oil in the world, right? There has to be eventually an alternative. But I think sometimes, you know, it's like I have a really economic background, and it's like you can't try to do like a short term gain, right? To like a feel good thing in order to focus on the long term, right? You have to always think about the long term and keep the short term going. So it's kind of like if you have a business that you know it's dying, it's a cyclical business, which oil is. And if you don't agree with that, that's crazy because look at Tesla, right? But it's not something that you could just wipe out. And the reason being is you do have a lot of people that are employed on this. So you got to slowly figure out ways. You can't have a dramatic change. And I think a good way was under the Obama administration doing the solar panel and all these incentives. And people are like, it's not efficient yet, but you got to dump money into it in order for technology to get better, right? So sorry, getting off
What
track.
about? No, yeah, you're good. What do you think about the fact that the Trump administration has put so many, I'd say, roadblocks in front of people that are trying to push for climate change, push for like the solutions to climate change? You know, he appointed Scott Pruitt as the head of the EPA, who immediately rolled back, you know, regulations on corporations, and he's lied about how many jobs they created in coal mining, right? He said they created 15 or 50,000 coal mining jobs on the East Coast when in actuality it's only 1,500. He's done so many things to harm the fight against climate change instead of helping. For example, he said he wants to remove tax credits given to wind and solar energy because he wants to let them compete with natural gas. But meanwhile, fossil fuel industries are receiving over $20 billion in federal tax subsidies, right? So under the Trump administration, there's things like this happening where oil and natural gas are getting help from the government, but wind and solar aren't, right? And it's solely because the people that are in office are friends with those that are running these oil companies, right? So don't you think electing Trump would pretty much, you know, pedal us backwards in that sense, instead of going to more renewable energies and trying to create jobs in that sense? Someone in chat said it's not just the Trump administration. Yeah, I agree. It's pretty much just big government doing that, right? Whoever's in the pockets of these oil companies, that's whoever's campaigns they're supporting, right? Giving millions of dollars because that's how much money they have to push their agendas forward. That's who's gonna. Yeah, exactly. So I think in general, that's what we need to stop doing. But specifically, the Republican Party is more about claiming that climate change isn't happening. You see that time and time again. Trump has called climate change a hoax. You see it on Fox News all the time. They're saying climate change isn't real. It's a fake thing. So I think if you're going to have to choose between one party or the other, the one to lead us down the better path in terms of climate change is going to be the Democratic Party, in my opinion.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see how. Yeah, I could see how, you know, one party is obviously advocating for it, right? There's no dispute.
Yeah.
And the other party is a little bit more resilient. So the way I would address this issue is, okay, I don't know how familiar everybody is, your viewers are with like economics and stuff like that, but I'll just do a quick crash course. And my you know defense in this thing is going to be the free market, right? So if you look at ExxonMobil's market cap, back in 2011, ExxonMobil was the most valuable company in the world. It had a value of over $400 billion. And we thought, wow, as investors, right? Stock was trading at $200. Things were going great. Today, ExxonMobil sits below $100 billion. And it's crazy. And their stock's at $30. It's getting plummeted. Same thing with BP. Same thing with Shell.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, they are the biggest investors. If you go look at BP, which is British Petroleum, they own Arco, and here it's known as Arco ANPM. Back East Coast is known as BP. They are the biggest investors in renewables and hydrogen, including Chevron, because, you know, if you look at the future, there's no doubt that that's the way, right? And I don't think that nobody wants to destroy the planet, because I don't care how greedy you are, you want to leave something for your kids, right? We just have a difference of ways of how we're going to get there. And you got to let the free market decide. When it becomes more effective and efficient, when the technology is there and, you know, you could successfully make that switch, then we're going to be able to do that. And you know what? I will concede to this. Anything major that was done by the government. You know, you're right in the sense of when we had like internet, for example, that wasn't an individual thing, or even landlines. That wasn't an individual thing. That was big government stepping in, throwing down big money, laying the infrastructure in order for that economy to boom. So I kind of see, you know, the left's point of trying to make this investment into greens and into renewables.
Yeah.
I just think that, and like I said, this is based off of just, you know, sound economics that, you know, I come from, in the sense of, if you let private companies continue to compete, like there's no doubt that Tesla has made strides. The whole Nikola thing, we're going to stay away from that because I have no idea what's going on over there. But we do know that, you know, Tesla's made batteries right now that can almost go 500 plus miles. And I think they're going to continue to do that. And, you know, Tesla merged with, with their solar company that they had, and they're making strides in solar too. For me, I would like to see over the next 5 years those tax credits continue and see the technology improve. I want to see hard facts to say, hey, when we put up, you know, one, you know, wind thing, it's going to be able to power this much. It's going to be able to do this much, and that's going to come with tech. And I think the free market's going to decide that, because at the end of the day, we're all about, you know, you're selling energy. That's their business. If Exxon wants to stay in business, they got to get with the program, right? They got to get on with it. And I think over the course of time, you're going to see that transformation. But I just don't think the tech is 100% there yet. Now, if this was, I think the way to attack this problem isn't necessarily to have government throw billions of dollars. I think that's really inefficient. If you look at COVID-19, for example, we were able to get this cure out a lot quicker because we incentivize these companies to say, hey, we need this done, right? We raise these funds. So instead of throwing, you know, whatever trillions of dollars we were at the Green New Deal, how about we start off at a smaller scale and say, hey, here's $100 billion donated to this. And we're only going to, you know, we're going to let Exxon get a portion. We're going to let these companies get a portion. And we're going to let independent companies get a portion. You guys come and you present to a nonpartisan board how you can make this tech better. And we'll fund that. And then once we realize, like, guys, this is it. This solar panel, you know, like, for example, Tesla making the solar panel roof, for example, that's going to last 100 years, that's there. If we could help him put economies of scale to that, which means the more you make, the cheaper it gets, that we can make it affordable for every American to have. And not just every American, because this is not an American problem. I agree with that. This is a world problem. If we have an easy way, not like easy, but a real technological revolution in this industry, that we could get India, we could get China, we could get parts of Africa on and say, guys, you don't need to continue to burn dirty coal. You know, we could give you this at a cheaper rate than coal. That's when you're going to really see the spark. And I just feel like we have two different ways of getting at it. You know, I think the left wants to throw money at it. And I think their heart's in the good place. But as a taxpayer, I think that's really ineffective. You can't just throw money. You have to lay down a solid, genuine plan. And I think the way to do that is to use private with oversight of public to make sure the funds are actually being used to progress, and maybe even get some military involvement in there, right? We have great engineers. Why not use them to help out this fight? So my disagreement with that is just that. It's not that I don't want, like, to go green, because who doesn't want to breathe air? I went to India recently. I couldn't breathe. I hated it. I don't want that to happen here. I don't think anybody wants that. My only disagreement is there's a difference between just throwing a few $1 trillion at a problem and letting a lot of bureaucracy and red tape go there, versus let's scale it down And I know we're fighting time, but let's do this in a way where we could do chunks at a time. Like for example, the credits that we did for Tesla, right, to enable
Yeah.
electric cars. Guess what happened, guys? Porsche jumped on, Honda jumped on, Toyota jumped on, and they're all fighting now for this new market that's created. So let's do the same thing for wind. Let's do the same thing for solar, and let's not just throw it at the big guys. Let's do an incentive program where we have guys that come out of college that have no capital that say, you know what, we're really, really smart. We have this crazy idea. We could put a blueprint together, and let's get this government grant. Let's get this thing started off the ground, right? And I think if we give a chance at that for at least, let's say 4 years, let's see what type of tech could grow from that. And then once we have something that's really scalable, I have no problem putting the full weight of the United States government behind it. I have no problem going to Congress, raising the funds and going it. My only fear, and I think a lot of fear of conservatives, is why are we just throwing some money at something where it's going to get tied up in a bureaucracy? It's not going to go to what it needs to do. And we've seen that happen, guys, over and over and over. I've always said the most efficient thing that the government's ever done is the national parks. Everything else, postal service, Brooke, it just gets tied up. There's too much red tape. There's too much stuff. When you're in an independent company, you could move, you could get things done. If you're the CEO and you got people vested in, they're going to go 20 hours. They don't care about the overtime. I think that's when you really get the innovation. And of course, I think government could back it. But I don't think just throwing money at something to make ourselves feel better is the best way. I think there has to be a more efficient way to spend it. But once
definitely
get that efficient way of doing it, it takes time. It just, I'm sorry. I know I wish I had the answer to do it right now. That's the two big differences, right? I think Republicans would get behind it too, because guess what? Who would buy those new techs? Who would put it would be kind of like the Verizons, the AT&Ts, it'd be the Exxon, the Shell, the whatever, right? They would use that infrastructure. Those guys are still always going to make money. My only concern is, as a taxpayer, we have a lot of problems to fix. And I understand that climate change is up there, but so is homelessness. So is drug abuse. So there's a lot of things we need to fix. And unfortunately, we can't just print money for everything. And I think that it's a logical, rational reason to start off with incentives to improve the technology first. Then we put the wave, right? Because the military developed the internet in the 80s, and it didn't really get refined until like the late 80s. And that's when we said, lay the cable down, baby. Let's build this infrastructure. And it's going to be government's job to build that infrastructure. But I just don't think we're there yet at a technological level. That's my only coil with this whole thing, because it's a lot of money.
on the topic of taxes, right? So obviously we need more money. Like it would be an ideal situation for us to have more money to deal with all these problems, like you said, homelessness versus climate change, right? Because one's immediate and one's in the future. Even though we technically should be looking at the future more, because I've taken classes on climate change, right? And the every projection as of right now shows millions of people being adversely affected, including like being homeless, right? Into the future. And the people that are going to be affected are the poorest people. And in order to change that, I think we need to put that money into that right now, because as of right now, what the Democratic or what the Republican Party is doing with taxes is like, so the tax plan that was passed in 2017, right, December of 2017, it currently lowered taxes for everybody, right? What was it?
It expires, by the way. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but it does expire.
Yeah, but like after 2027, right? Because
I think it's
as of right
4 or 25. 24 or 25.
Oh, well, what I read like just today said all taxpayer income groups of $75,000 or less, right? That's 65% of American taxpayers. They're going to face a higher tax rate in 2027 than in 2019. So the reason the Trump administration did that is because during his administration, he was going to lower taxes for everybody, including the rich. But that created a $1 trillion deficit in budget, right? So the only way to fix that is because the way they decided to fix that was raise taxes on everybody after he would have been elected, because after that he doesn't need to be reelected, right? So after 2020, starting in 2021, everybody that earns under $75,000, they're going to have an increase in taxes to where the average household will pay $364 more per year in taxes, right? And that'll fill their $1 trillion budget gap. But after that, people earning more than $1 million per year will see a decrease of 2.3% in taxes, which will save them $64,000 per year. So everything that they're doing right now in taxation, it's not increasing the total, it's just keeping it pretty much the same. but they're disguising it as a decrease for everyone, but in actuality, it's an increase for the working class and a decrease for their own friends. So I think if you agree that our taxes need to go to a better place, they're not. It's not going to be accomplished by the Republican Party. So, yeah, I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
Uh,
Because especially with Trump in office, he doesn't really care about the working people, right? He said he doesn't care about women, he doesn't care about people of color, he doesn't even care about our troops, right? He's been caught on tape as saying like people that died in foreign wars are losers, and John McCain's a loser for getting caught, you know.
yeah,
And
that
yeah, man,
you just asked, okay.
I don't see how we can like reconcile someone that outrightly speaks against 90% of like the American public, and then still put our trust in him as a leader of our nation to do what's good for us. Because I do believe that some policies during these 4 years have benefited some people, right? But I think they've benefited people because of the Republicans that have been allowed to do things. Because the only reason the Republican Party supported him in 2016 was because they realized that enough of America was on board with his policies to where they could put him in office and then get their things done, right? Because the Republican Party doesn't really support everything he believes in,
No,
right? Everything that Trump, yeah, exactly, everything that Trump is as a person. They're just sacrificing their standing and like pretty much their integrity, just like Lindsey Graham, all these people, Mitch McConnell. They're sacrificing their integrity just to get somebody in there that's going to let them do what they want to do. And I think that's what's wrong, because they weren't going to let Hillary they didn't want a third Democratic term in a row as president. And yeah, I think the Republican Party as it is right now is pretty much just compromised in the sense that they don't care about what happens to the people anymore as long as they're getting what they want done.
Okay. First,
Yeah.
we'll address the tax thing. So was that
Yeah.
accounted for inflation? Because naturally taxes are going to go up because the Fed's targeting like a 3% inflation rate. So I mean, so like naturally, like our cost of living is going to go up.
They should go up. Yeah.
Our everything's going to go up. So I'm just asking, like, does that account for the inflation? Because at the higher end, taxes would go up, but compared to the
I think I have a graph here that shows it. 1 second.
I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying.
Like, I don't know if you can see it, but you should be able to see it on stream if you have that up. But yes. Yeah, it shows the taxes like changing over time up to 2020, and I think this is adjusted for inflation starting in 1940, right? So like as you can see, the darker blue one is corporate income taxes, and those have been lowered since the 1940s and 50s, right? But people's individual income taxes and payroll taxes have gone up. Individual income taxes have pretty much stayed the same. So I think this supports my point that the amount of funding that we're getting to pay for the things that need to be paid for with taxes, it's just decreasing by who is paying for, or is being kept the same, but who's paying for it is changing. And I think that's what's wrong right now. Republicans want to keep this graph going the same direction it is right now, with corporate taxes decreasing and then our individual taxes increasing.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about off air about this, right? So we talked about.
Yeah,
we did. I legitimately believe that even if Clinton was Hillary was a president, taxes would have to be cut. And we got to understand something, guys. I think there's a little bit of a misconception here. So I'm not going to talk about trickle down theory or anything like that. Okay, this is the truth about this. Okay, so when you have a corporation formed, right? So there's a lot of entities, right? You have S corp, nonprofit, blah 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 blah, all this stuff. Yeah. But corporate America is usually in a corporation. It's formed in the C corp. So what you have is you have a corporation that's right here, and unfortunately, and I disagreed with this. The American government views this as a person. That's why they're allowed to, donate as donors, that's a totally different topic. But these guys get charged at a corporate tax rate, right? So this is your Coke, this is your Pepsi, this is your McDonald's, this is your so on, so on, so on, so on. Now, the profits made from this individual corporation afterwards, so these guys pay 20%, 21%, 25, 35, whatever percent they pay. Now, the profits distributed from this corporation to the individual stockholder, these guys also have to pay tax. So if I'm an investor in Coke and Coke made $1 million, Coke's going to pay $200,000. That leaves them $800,000. That $800,000 gets divvied up. I get it in my pocket. Now, I am also charged at the individual tax level. So if you want to talk about corporate taxes, guys, and this is what I've been saying is on my personal channel is, we're in a global economy. Whether Trump likes it, whether you like it, no one like it, doesn't matter. We're in a global economy. We're very, very competitive. If I am a corporation, if I am Coca-Cola, if Apple, for example, Apple is headquartered in, or not Apple, EA is headquartered in Dublin. Dublin has zero corporate tax. They move those jobs over there. Is that sketchy? Is that shady? This is it, but this is just the way the business is. So if America does not lower their corporate tax, they're going to lose some of these corporations being held in these areas. So it's not so much the corporation tax, because what a corporation is, in a sense, it's a small government, right? What the corporation does as a whole is they say, hey, like me, if me and you started the company today, we raise our money, we do something, we literally are trading money for time. We're saying, hey, instead of you sitting on the couch, give me 40 hours of your life. I'm going to give you this much money, and I'm going to use your 40 hours better than you would, because I'm going to have you, spin this widget, which I'm going to sell or do whatever. So corporations are getting taxed at that level. Now, if we're making our profits, it's double taxation. A lot of people don't understand that. And you need these corporations to thrive because they are the biggest supplier of jobs. And do I think that there's a such thing as a corporate responsibility? Well, when I finished my MBA, there's a huge corporate responsibility. Guys, with every dollar you have, it's a vote. Every single dollar we have, it's a vote. If we don't like the way that Apple is treating people, right? We don't like the way that Apple is making people work for $1 a day or whatever, or we don't like the way that ExxonMobil we think is polluting things, we're going to vote with our dollar. Screw you, ExxonMobil. We're going to go buy Tesla. We're going to go self-power. Screw you, Apple. You're doing the wrong thing. I'm going to go buy a Nokia. I'm going to go buy someone else, right? So you vote with your dollar, right? And corporate tax kind of does have to be lowered in order to stay competitive globally, right? Because the last thing we want to do is charge 35%. And you could call it greedy, you could call it whatever, but a corporation's main objective is to make profit, right? They're going to do what's in the best interest for them. They're going to do what's in the best interest of their stakeholders. So they're going to say, you know what, guys, we love America, but what we're going to do is we're going to go move this corporation to Dublin where it's 0, or this area where it's 18%. Because there's a difference. If you keep it around 21% where it's now, you're going to say, well, we have better access in America. We have better access to employers. It's worth for us to pay this premium. But make no mistake about it, when those profits get passed down to the individual, even when you see CEOs cash out on stock options or whatever, when they actually, like Jeff Bezos recently pulled out $3 billion, he's getting charged at the long-term capital gains tax. Now, if you wanted to change that, if you wanted to say, hey, we're going to change the long-term capital gains tax, that's an avenue that you could, go after. But you can't really attack the corporation without hurting the American job, because essentially, if the corporation keeps the money, right? Like, let's say if Apple makes $1 billion or Coca-Cola makes $1 billion, if they don't go spend that money to invest in something, like, for example, I'll give you an example, like McDonald's, they took some money and they invested in Chipotle. Okay. They invested seed money into Chipotle. They got a little tax credit from it. And look what Chipotle did. Look how many jobs it created, executive jobs, corporate jobs, whatever. They cashed out on that. If McDonald's wanted to go up and buy more property, open up another area, develop a region, they're allowed to do that. But the second they get, air quotes, not productive, because in an economy, there's only two ways to spend. Either the government spends money or private sector spends money. So when a private sector makes so much money, they're like, you know what, we're done investing. We got this cash. Corporations have this cash. We don't know what to do with this cash, right? You paid your 20% tax. Let's do share buybacks, or let's issue a dividend, or let's just cash out. Once that goes, it goes to the individual. The individual gets taxed because the government says, okay, you're done spending. You don't know how to spend this money anymore. You don't know how to create jobs. So we're going to take this money and then that tax is going to go to the government, which in turn the government spends money on whatever it is. So this is the cycle of an economy. You can't just throw a wrench at it. Now, do I think that we could sustain at a higher corporate tax? I think we could. But if we wanted to incentivize more corporations being formed, if we wanted to incentivize more ingenuity, more jobs, more creation, I don't think we should go after, I think 21% is fair. And there is something to be said about this. Over the course of time, guys that are running companies, girls that are running companies that are there, they're not dumb, right? They're going to look at the tax and say, wow, it's 35%. How the hell can I get around this, right? But when you have it, when it's fair, when you have it where it's like, you know what, is it even worth our time to try to like sidestep this, or should we just pay this and move on? they're more likely to pay it and move on. And I'll give you an example. Something like Singapore. Singapore has like the lowest corporate tax. They're like, I think 15% flat. And they get majority of their tax revenues actually collected. They don't care about, looking for loopholes or whatever, because they're so competitive that allows people to fight, create jobs, do things. And I think I'm not advocating for 15%. I think 21 is fair, because you got to look at the global economy. Someone like Sweden, these other countries, when they try to tax corporations, they realize the jobs went away. So what did they do? They raised the individual tax rate to like 50% almost theoretically, but they kept corporate tax rate at 21. So companies like IKEA could thrive. They could keep jobs there. So we got to have this balance. Okay. Now, is this going to be a game of every few years? Maybe we could nudge it up a bit to see if we can squeeze the best type of balance. Of course, there's always room for improvement. We got to figure out what works. Maybe for a few years we knock it down to 18. See, do we collect more? Do we have job growth? Oh, we don't. Okay, well, let's bump this up. Okay, can they sustain from 21 to 23? What's the difference here? Okay, we looked at the data. Okay, maybe we could go another 2% higher. You have to find this middle ground, because the last thing you want to do is you want to stop the flow of capital. And capital flows when they have consistency. When they feel, as an investor, when I feel I know in the next 4 years what I'm looking at, I'm more likely to say, okay, I'm going to make an investment decision. I'm going to open up this burger stand. I'm going to open up this bar. I'm going to open up this new plant. I'm going to take this risk when I have certainty. You get destabilization when you have uncertainty. Why did the markets rise like crazy? They understood that, the Senate was going to be controlled by the Republicans, and they understood that Biden administration was going to be more friendly abroad. And it rose. Literally $2 trillion got added to the market on Monday. And you need to be able to provide consistency and stability to an economy. And it doesn't matter if you're Venezuela. It doesn't matter if you're China, if you're India, if you're America. When you try to shake things up too quickly, you're going to have a dramatic change. But I think my main point in the tax thing is, in order to stay competitive globally, America naturally had to drop its taxes, because if we didn't, we saw these big companies leave. And as much as we love these companies, I love Apple. I think Apple's really great. They protect you. They do everything, as far as your security goes. They left. They went to Dublin. They went what was best for them. It's hard to control that company. And if they don't want to do business with us, they'll go somewhere else. So we got to keep that balance there. And the point on Trump, I'll finish up with that. I love John McCain. I absolutely think he is a war hero. And like I said, I have nothing in defense of Trump for that. There's nothing I can say for that. I feel bad for his daughter. I feel bad for everyone that put on, some of my best friends lay their lives down every single day abroad. And I would never say anything for him, because you know what? I didn't serve. Trump didn't serve. He needs to shut up. Right?
Exactly.
Never say anything bad about it. And it sucks, because I told you off air, I'm more of a policy guy. I wish we could have had somebody else other than Trump. It's despicable. It's horrible when he says stuff like that. And, I got to just look down in shame. There's no way in hell I'm ever going to get behind that. It's not this whole idea of like, oh, everyone's following Trump. No, they're following, the policies. If the Democratic Party would just go more to the middle, or if somebody else would rise and say, we got some of these policies where we could meet, and this guy wasn't just spewing out of his mouth, just talking, I think we'd have more unity. I mean, what do
you think about the fact that people say, like, who you vote into office should first of all reflect your morals as a person and then be on the policy side? What do you say to that? Because I personally, that's what I believe. If I want somebody, what was that?
Did you want to add anything to the tax thing, or like anything?
Oh no, that's pretty much it. But also, I was gonna point out that one of like the biggest projections between Trump's plan and Biden's plan, like starting right now, shows that. 1 second, let me pull it up. Shows that.
1 second, real quick. Did it make sense what I was saying about the tax plan, about being competitive and the double taxation and all that? Or was there?
You kind of I kind of lost you at the end, but like, do you agree? Like, well, overall, like, the biggest topic in this election, like, according to taxes, is Biden's wants to tax the 1% more, right? Trump decreased it from 39% to 37.5 or something, and Biden wants to increase it back to what it was. Do you agree with that?
One, I think he's gonna have a hard time doing that, because he's not going to be able to push it. But no, I don't.
But like,
it has nothing to do with keeping the rich or anything like that. I think if you wanted to change the individual tax, for the individual tax rate, right? Like we talked about, people that make more than $400,000 a year, I
Yeah.
would say, and here's the thing, here's the thing about it. It's like, where is this money going to? That's the big question. Is it going to go to I think people all want to have a say. I think you should leave corporate tax alone, right? Because like I said, it's double taxation because you get a corporate tax rate. It hinders investment, but you get the individual tax rate. So if your corporation is doing well and you pay yourself, the corporation's paying 21%. And then the money that the corporation makes, the money that comes from that corporation to the individual investor, they're getting taxed too. So if you want to raise the individual tax
But
rate,
hasn't that increased? Let me pull up this one. Hold on one second.
the corporate tax rate or the individual tax rate?
No, the amount that these corporations are paying themselves, right? Because if you own a corporation, like right here in this graphic, CEOs were earning 42 times more than the average rank like employees in 1982, right? In 2012, it's jumped to 354 more times than the average person. So shouldn't since they're paying themselves more, I don't think the CEOs that are working these companies are doing anything harder to earn this money. To, like an increase of what is this,
I
40
I strongly
six
disagree.
times, right?
I
Why
strongly
why is that?
and here's the thing about that, man. Like for example, you're gonna pay for quality service. I have an app. I'm launching an app. It's doing decent here in the valley,
Okay.
and cleaning service, whatever. If one
Mm-hmm.
day I want to step by, the guy that I'm paying, because you got to understand, when these CEOs make money, they don't. This money isn't just falling from the sky. This money is coming to them because they were able to actually make money. So a lot of these, okay, for example, let's take Elon, right? Elon Musk's incentive was if you get Tesla to do this many sales, if you get it to get to this market cap, then we will reward you with X. There's a reason why that guy only slept 4 hours, slept on the ground floor. The Model 3 back in 2017 was Tesla was ready to go bankrupt again. He laughed about it because if they didn't get that production going, they never would be where they are now, and they are successful now. So
Mm-hmm.
you reap what you reward. Now, some of these CEOs, yeah, I could get your point. They got the little cush jobs. They don't really do much, but that's on the stockholder, right? That's on the individual investment. Why are we looking so hard at what these guys are doing? And even when those guys are getting paid and they're cashing out, they're paying their 20% capital gains tax on it. We're getting 20% of it. Capital eventually got to flow somewhere. These people that are rich, you look at people like, I think there's this misconception of hoarding money. I don't keep any money. I'm a small time investor. The second I save $100,000, it's out the door. I'm on to the next rental. I'm on to thinking. A lot of these rich people are like that too. You don't get rich and stay rich because they understand that inflation eats your money. So when these guys get a lot of money, they're not just hoarding all the money. No, they're looking for the best way to invest this money to do what? Make more money, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and all money it's a representation of time. You have proven that you have managed other people's time better. Therefore, society has rewarded you with the opportunity to then again use other people's time to hopefully create a product or service. Because it could be money, it could be shells, it could be pencils, it could be whatever. There's something that denominates time, right? There has to be something that denominates time. And that's all money is. And when you start thinking about money in this sense, that money is time, you start everything just opens up. For example, if you're making $10 an hour and you go buy a $5 Starbucks, it's not $5. You gave that person, 30
30
minutes of your
minutes of
life,
time.
right?
Yeah.
And that's all money is. So it has nothing to do with the CEO rank or whatever. And I can give you countless examples of how CEOs have made shareholders. Look at Tim Cook, for example, right? If you would have invested in Apple when Steve Jobs had died in 2011, I mean, dude, he took the company from being worth like 200 billion, 300 billion or whatever it was to freaking 1.5 trillion dollars, and he only cashed out 300 million dollars. I would love to be a shareholder in Apple. I'd be like, I would pay that man. He
But how
made,
many people in the working class are shareholders of Apple?
okay,
Like
so
their employees, you know?
yeah, I mean, a lot of people are involved in the market. A lot of people are. You have your 401ks, you have your retirement plans, and if you have a government job, you're invested in CalPERS or something like that. It's a pension. You're directly tied to the stock market. We're really, really intertwined. Now, if you're talking about the local plumber or you're talking about the low class middle wage worker, unfortunately, they're not. That's why I created this page. I threw $1,000 into a Robinhood account. And I'm trying to teach people financials, and that comes down to an educational level. And guys,
Yeah.
not everybody wants the same thing. There's this misconception. Not everybody wants to be a millionaire. Not everybody wants to have money. I think the American dream is just to put what I define as success is a roof over your head, food in your belly, clothes on your back, and not having the anxiety of saying, I'm about to lose everything. Right? Not everybody wants to be the next Elon Musk. Not people don't want to take that headache on. They want to live a decent quality of life, and that kind of goes into the healthcare debate. But, what someone makes, if Bill Gates made $100 billion, they didn't stop printing money. Money is printed every single day. Zuckerberg made $1 billion. Jack Dorsey made $1 billion. And there's millionaires being born every single day in this country. They are never going to stop printing money. Every single day there is millions of dollars printed. If you want to be able to become rich or be well off, you have to create a product or a service and you got to bring it out. I mean, that's, it's not
But
just
okay,
like
on the topic of like becoming rich, right? Like becoming like anybody, right? You like the American dream is that anybody can become rich, but I think
no,
what
no, no.
nobody what was it?
I think the American dream is you could do what you want with your life. And that's the beautiful thing. Like, if you want to be rich, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot, but you can be rich.
Yeah.
You want,
But
if
I
you
also
want to,
I think people that are already rich are hindering the people that aren't rich's chances of getting up there. Because like, hold on, let me pull this up. Because so like obviously the wealth gap has increased, right, over time since 83 from 2016. The upper income has gone up, it has increased the amount of aggregate U.S. wealth, while the middle class has gone down. The lower income classes have pretty much stayed the same, right? So the lower class has gotten bigger, and while the upper class has just gotten more rich, right? And the things that are keeping these people in place, and I think you agree with this, is government practices and rules, right? So this is one of the things that I was going to pull up. So pretty much made this list of like things that cause and like contribute to poverty, right? So but one of them is income and tax inequality, stagnating low wages because Trump doesn't agree with increasing the minimum wage, the federal minimum wage. Reduced public investment, inadequate public benefits, detrimental exclusions and restrictions. So pretty much that, and lack of quality education, right? Access to quality education. So in this country, the biggest problem probably is the lack of education, and that's what's keeping people in their respective wealth classes, right? Because one study showed that if you gave a lower class family earning less than $25,000 a month, which is 25% of America, the median income of a child from that family increases by $7,000. So if you just give the lower class families access to more education and more money, they automatically become more successful, right? So that doesn't mean that they're not working hard to get to where they are. They can be working the equal amount, but they just have more obstacles in their way from getting there, right? And then on top of that, lack of access to affordable healthcare and housing, institutional racism, criminalization of the poor, restrictive immigration policies, and predatory practices, right? All of these things have been proven in studies to keep poor people poor. And I think on top of that, the like going back to like, the whole topic of this debate, the party that's going to help right now, the party that's aimed at helping poor people is not Republicans, especially not Trump's party. It's Biden's party, right? Because they want to increase the amount of social welfare programs, right? And they're going to pay for that by increasing the tax on individuals that earn, right, what I said, the top 1% from 37.5 to 39%, right? So it's not like he can't pay for this. He will pay for it. And on top of that, there's too many obstacles against people from the lower classes obtaining a college education, right? I went to UCLA. I have student debt, right? After 4 years of UCLA. A lot of people also have that student debt, and they're discouraged from going to public universities because of student debt. Well, on the other hand, what Biden's plan is, if he's like, well, right, obviously he's been elected as president, right? But it's not official. If he does become president, his plan is to alleviate $10,000 to families that are earning less than $75,000 per year, alleviate $10,000 of student debt, and he's going to pay for that by increasing those taxes to the rich. So I think by reallocating that wealth from the rich to fund education and to promote education in America is going to help decrease this wealth gap over time. So and on top of that, pretty much the reason I vote, like I wanted to ask you this question, like most of all, why do you, like, in what way do you reconcile that fact of that having Trump in office? Because you don't like the guy, you don't agree with what he says. How do you reconcile that fact with his policies? Like in what evidence, or not evidence, in what way, if you can explain, do the policies outweigh the type of rhetoric that he spews and like the amount of hate that he fosters in this country.
Yeah, I think I can't really speak about the hate part, but I would like to. And by the way, dude, I'm sorry, I'm not on your feed. My wife just told me, "Hey, let him talk." So, like, if I'm talking too much or talking over you, please just put a hand up. I'll shut the hell up. I'm sorry.
You're
I'm
good.
really excited, so I just want to put that out there. Just put a hand up, and I'll shut up. You know what I mean?
No,
So
no,
not
man.
being
Yeah,
disrespectful.
you're giving information too. That's valuable information. It's all good, man.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but just
Yeah,
just don't bother. Just put the hand up, and I'll my bad. And plus, it's a little lag, so sorry. But
yeah,
uh,
no problem.
so the question was, I think a lot of people, you have to take into consideration that the individual is going to be more effective than the group because when you get two, three, four people, I mean, I'm sure you have a group chat with your friends, right? And
Yeah,
I'm sure you guys have tried to plan a trip or you guys have tried to do something. And I could tell you for us, every time we try to plan something, man, it goes horribly wrong, right? Because everyone's like, oh, this doesn't work for me. That doesn't work. And it's like, Jesus Christ, right? Versus if you want to just take a trip with just you and your friend and you're like, yo, it's just me and you. Let's go for a hike. Cool, date, done, right? So this perspective is at a government level when you have a bunch of people trying to figure out an idea at an independent level. So one of the policies that I loved was the opportunity zones. And a lot of people are familiar with the opportunity zones. And I do think it's helped the minority population immensely. So what an opportunity zone does, it's a famous Charlie Munger quote. If you take anything from this, I would encourage you to always keep this in your head. If you show me the incentive, I'll show you the result, right? And what the opportunity zone does, because that's what it is. That's what capitalism works, right? We're really selfish. We're inherently selfish. We are. People are. We try to be good, but we're not. We're
yeah,
going to do what's best for us at an individual level. And what opportunity zone did was it literally said, okay, you got this area that's ghetto or not up to par. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this an opportunity zone. So if you buy this, you invest in it. We're not going to charge tax for 10 years. We're not going to increase your tax. And when you decide that, and you can only sell this property 10 years from today, but you won't get charged capital gains. So what did that do? That made a bunch of investors go, let's do it, baby. Let's do this. And you start employing people in the area. You start building it. Because me as an investor, a real estate investor, I'm like, hell yes. Because if I'm going to put 200, 300, $1 million to work, and I build this area up, I hire the people in the community, I make sure it's right. I go to city council and say, hey, clean up this graffiti, port more units, do whatever the hell you got to do, make this zone change, whatever, because I'm incentivized to make this area better. And in turn, it makes the community better. That's one thing that he's done. But for the college thing, I hope that kind of answers that. Did that kind of a
yeah.
little
I agree.
opportunities?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Okay, and do I think that Trump's inherently a racist? I don't think so. Because if he really was, I don't think he would have put women or sexist or whatever. I don't think he would have put women as his press secretary. I definitely don't think he would have put Ben Carson as a secretary of HUD. I just think that he's
But
an idiot. He just says that's
someone
so.
can be racist. Someone can be like dangerously racist without like exclusively being like, I'm never gonna put a black person in office or a woman, right? You can easily prove that he's sexist by all the things he says, right? Like grab him by the pussy.
Okay,
He
Donald.
doesn't. He
Like I said, man, this guy. If anything, I look at Trump or Trumpism, as you call it, and I look at it as more of a form. There's a lot of people that want certain policies done, and these politicians aren't listening. And that's what I boiled this really down to. It's not necessarily Trump. It's just there's a lot of people that want to put America first. They want a leader to hold NATO responsible. They want someone to hold China responsible. Um, I like Tulsi Gabbard. I would have voted for her, by the way, if she would have been the candidate. But
okay.
it's not necessarily the Trump. And I'm tired of defending like the person Trump versus the policymaker Trump. There's no real major defense for the type of person that he is and the type of things he says. And sometimes you could write it off like, oh, he's just trolling, but it is very hurtful, man. I wouldn't want to disrespect anybody. I think we could disagree, but um, that's really hard. Now for the college thing, you know, there is one accountability, right? You one is colleges have a lot of huge endowments. If you go look at the top colleges in the world, including UCLA, by the way, they've taken a lot of money, they have a lot of
Yeah,
cash. If
definitely.
anything, they should step in and say, "Hey, we sold you a false bill of goods. This society has sold you a false bill of goods. And also there needs to be accountability, because if you're going to college, and you want to be a music major and you want to go do something that's not productive to society, there should have been someone that told you, just said, hey, I don't think this makes that much money. You should change a different route, right? And number two,
Well, that isn't that already inherent in what like if whatever is more like valuable to society per se. If you're like going to become a STEM major, you're going to make more money versus a music major. Isn't that already inherent? You know what I mean? Like that doesn't really have to do anything with how much debt they're going to accrue, because that's not the debt. The debt relief isn't based on what major you are, right? It's just going to be based on your family's income level. So it's going to be decreased. Like if you come from a rich family and like if you were a music major, right? Your debt's not going to be, you're not going to have debt alleviation. It's going to be the kid that was from a lower income family. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of families out there that actually paid the debt off, that decided not to work or not to take vacations to help their kids get through college too. So, for me, it's like you can't forget about those people too. We always think like rich, but there's also a lot of sacrifice that's involved in that. But for me, I think that a way to help, I agree with you. Okay, if you're a young kid and you're coming into this world, and you did the right thing, right? You did what you were supposed to do. They told you go to college, they told you go get educated, and you're strapped with this debt. But then you got to buy a house one day, you got to buy a car, you got to buy a life. And when are you going to get the capital to invest? How are you going to get capital for upward mobility, right? So my solution is it's pretty simple. This is a way that everybody can win. We already have a lot of agencies in place. We have a lot of things in place that if we acted, we could help. And that's half the problem with society. Sometimes people like me and you, we talk this out and we say, this is the solution. Why is no one listening? For example, if I was president, I would make a student zones czar. And I would put someone in place that says, I want you to use, it probably should be Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, and he should work closely with Congress. And they should come up and say, for example, I don't want to put you on blast or anything, so I'm not going to ask how much debt you have or anything like that. But let's say you racked up $100,000 in student loan debt. But we need you today. We need you to be productive. We want you to buy a house. We want you to buy a car. We want you to take that vacation, because that's how economies work. So what I would do is say, hey, XYZ, I know you have this much in student loan, and there's sharks out there, number one, that are just killing you, right? Because they're charging 7, 8, 9%. And that's because it was government backed, right? And it was government backed. So everyone's like, oh, hell yeah, they can't declare bankruptcy. They can't do whatever. What I would do is, first off, I would kick government out. I would provide more subsidies for colleges that allow it to happen. I would push more community college. And number two, we're in this position, so we got to dig ourselves out. So this is what you should do. Pass a bill that says, if you want to declare bankruptcy on your student loans, you can. But you're not going to get your credit score back for 7 years. It's the same way it goes for regular people. Why is this any different? Right? Number two, if you don't want to do that, you want to protect your credit score because you want to buy a house, you want to start your life. How about the government gives you like a 50-year, because life expectancy has gone up like crazy, a 50-year fixed loan at 1%. 1%. No one loses. The government will print the money. They'll take that asset out and you make those payments, right? At 1%. Mm-hmm. So if you owe $100,000, divide that by 50 times 12. That's like crazy amount. Your payment would be so minuscule by 10 years in, the rate of inflation would kill that debt. And that way up front, the economy wouldn't get hurt. So the guy that gave you the loan can't say, well, I didn't get my money. It's just a kind of way of saying, hey, buddy, you're not going to rip off our future generation. I'm sorry. Here's your money. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. And the government did you a solid by saying, we're only going to charge 1%. We're going to do this for 50 years. And your payment on $100,000, I can't do the math off the top of my head, but I believe it's going to be less than like $150, $200. And over the course of 10 years, that $200 is going to be nothing, because the rate of inflation, the rate of wages, the rate of everything else would rise. And essentially, it's like you would pay it off. That way, you don't disrupt the economy, because student loans are like, I think, creeping up to $2 trillion, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's
the 1.6. Yeah.
It's going to end up being 2.
Yeah, it's going up pretty steadily. Yeah.
I think that's the good way to solve the problem, where everybody wins. The people that loaned it got their money. The people that took it got a sweetheart deal that would pay it back over the course of time. And by the way, that loan should be off of your credit report. It should be off of any, like if you're going to buy a house, you're going to start a business, you're going to do a car. Mm-hmm. that payment is between you and the government. That will not appear on anything else, right? That's essentially, it's wiped, and you are just making those payments to the government. And that's because we don't want to blow up the sector. Remember, the housing crash in '08 was a few trillion and it trickled down. So we don't want to blow the economy up. But this is a good way to transition over. And I wish more politicians would understand how economics work. And this would be a subsidy. We give billions of dollars to farmers. We give billions of dollars to other entities. Why not help out our youth? Now, I was fortunate enough that my parents, they worked 16 hours a day. They bought a job. They owned a business, but really they bought a job. They worked their asses off. They saved enough money to put me and my sister to college. You know what? That's fine. And it does piss me off a little bit because we paid over $150,000 over the course of 7 years, and they paid it off. And I wish my parents would have got something for that 150. But you know what? If we help the students of today, I also have to take a step back as an investor, as an economist, and say, if I understand my parents got the short end, but if we help the youth of today and we allow them to grow, we allow them to be educated, that's essentially going to benefit me in the future. More doctors, more lawyers, more everything. So it's going to be a tough pill to swallow. But I think for someone like me that says, well, I paid, I think the way to coil that is say, hey, they're still going to pay. They're just going to pay at a way lesser amount over a longer period. And, for that person that gets that deal, like at a 1% deal, they'll realize that over the course of time, that payment really is insignificant, right? Because it's not going to be that much, because wages will rise. I promise you they will rise. Things will get expensive, and that debt will be fixed. It's not going to be a balloon, and it will be a benefit to society. But I think the core of this is, it comes back to what we started of right here. I think democratic policies are from here. I don't think there's a single democratic policy that doesn't come from here. I think Democrats truly and genuinely want what's best for the people. I think the biggest disagreement that just a regular conservative, not a Trumpist, whatever, just a regular conservative have is sometimes those things that we draw up on a piece of paper just aren't practical, right? And I think that's where that's where we would come together and say, I understand you want to get here, but let's not go down this road because there's going to be problems. Let's go down this avenue because it would be best. And I think that you can't have a single party that says we have all the answers and the other party doesn't know shit, because that's when it comes down to a divide. We're going to take Trump out of the equation. Let's not bring him. Let's say that it was Mitt Romney or somebody else. Not saying the racist, crazy stuff, that whatever, but you have to meet in the middle. It's just like when you have a friend, you have a girlfriend, you have a dad, you have a mom, you have whatever. They're going to want what's best for you. And I think the Democrats truly and genuinely want what's best for every American. And I think Republicans do too. But we just, when it comes to this road, we're we're playing kind of like tug of war. We need to figure out a way to bring it to the middle. And, for example, like the student loan thing, I definitely think that needs to be addressed. There's no way because it's going to hurt us. Even if let's say if you're a Republican, you don't care about the other person, that's fine. But it's going to freaking hurt you. Because if you're a Republican, you own a business, whatever, who's going to buy your shit? If you had a student out there that's so freaking broke that they can't buy a house, they can't buy a car, they can't go out to a good meal, they can't go to a vacation, how's your economy going to boom? So even if you didn't give a damn about the student or the generation, you're going to care about your pocketbook. So this is a solution that needs to be addressed, and I feel like I said, for as far as like keeping, minorities down and the Republican Party and this and that, I feel like the party of the Democrats actually restrict upward mobility, because I feel like sometimes, like I said, it comes from the heart, right? Like the EPA regulations and all these regulations that come out, they genuinely want what's good for society, but it hampers, because only the people that could afford these regulations and do that are people that are already in business. The person that's starting off, that's at a nuclear level that's small. For example, you look at California, like I started my company, before I even spent $1 on ads or did anything like that, I had to pay close to $1,000 to get started. What the hell is that about? Even in order for me to even start a company, I had to pay $1,000. Who the hell has that kind of money? So I think sometimes both parties can learn from each other, and I think that's what we're really missing as a nation is. It's not that necessarily that every single Democratic policy is good or bad, or every single Republican policy is good or bad. I'm just saying there needs to be a middle ground where it says, okay, we understand you want solar. We understand that you want student loan reduction. We understand you want to help the minority population. Who doesn't want to help you're only as good as your weakest link. If your weakest link is doing bad, what the hell does that say about your society, right? I just think there's a different way of bringing them up. There's a different way of doing things. And I think I
Yeah.
speak for
Um,
most Republicans when I say that.
yeah, I just also wanted to address somebody in chat was saying that he's saying that Trump's policies or like what Trump does isn't racist because apparently he's had saved the lives of many people of color. But like, I just want to address that, and I'm not like not to,
I mean, I don't understand what they mean. Save the lives of many people. What is that? What do you,
they themselves. They said they themselves have.
wait?
Apparently, that's why they're not racist.
Can you restate that? I'm having a hard time understanding
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So somebody in chat, anti fascist said that Trump and everything Trump has done isn't racist, including he's also saying that white supremacy groups aren't racist, and he's saying he's not racist because he has saved the lives.
That guy's just trolling. Let's not
Yeah,
get
yeah,
that guy's just
yeah,
trolling.
yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to make the point though that because there's other people that agree with him in chat. I just wanted to make the point that anything that Trump says, there's literally the statistics to back it up that he has increased the amount of hate crimes since he's been elected. He's increased the amount of bullying that happens in schools to people of color because he says on live TV, he says on national TV, he's telling women of color that have been elected to office to go back to where they came from, right? Like I'm sure you've also been told to like the same exact thing when you were younger in school, right? Like go back to
Oh,
where you came from. Yeah, exactly. You're a terrorist, right? Him in office right now is emboldening those people because those are the type of people that support him, right? Since he's been elected, there's a reason that 6 million more people voted for him in 2020 than 2016, right? They felt that they were finally being represented in a position of power, and I agree. Somebody in chat says he's just exposing what America really is, and that's what America actually really is, right? For at least 70 million people, 72 million people in America, or some of them are in some ways, racist because that's who's been emboldened by his policies. They think it's like a refreshing thing, like the numerous white nationalist groups have come out as saying this is our candidate, this is who's going to push our policies forward, right? And I think that's pretty much, at least that's for me, that's the most important thing in this election, right? Like the stake of the morality of our country and like saving the lives of people that are going to be affected just because they're people of color in this country. Like I haven't personally been affected by any Trump supporter, but I know there's people that have, right? Some Asian man and his daughter were stabbed in a gas station by somebody who was like, "You guys brought the China virus here," right? If Trump didn't advertise it as the China virus, as the Kung flu, right? That wouldn't have happened if he just called it by what it was, right? So I think that's to me that's the biggest thing in this election. Those people that are being harmed by what Trump says because he's not going to be affected. He doesn't give a shit. He's not gonna care about any of this, right? So yeah, that's like the point I'm trying to make. And yeah, but like I know you definitely did. I know you voted for Trump, but like, what would you say to somebody that says, but you voted for somebody into office that doesn't really reflect your morals? Like who you are as a person separate from, because you deal with people every day, right? What you deal with people doesn't involve policy or economics or anything, right? You're just dealing person to person, right? Trump isn't somebody that you would want to be friends with, not somebody that you would want anybody in your family around, like any women in your family. You wouldn't want any people of color around, right? So it, why do you how do you reconcile that in that?
so when I try to vote, man, I first and foremost, man, I'm sorry on the behalf of the Republican Party that half the country feels that way. First and foremost, like
Yeah,
I don't think that uh, I don't think anyone should feel that way, especially about their leader. I think we should be having this debate about, you know, more so of, oh, I don't like this policy or I don't agree with that policy, in the sense of, how we're going about things. You know what I mean? I wish it would
yeah,
be. So I can't really defend that. But you asked me essentially, why did I vote for Trump? And,
yeah,
my question would be is, what's I try to take emotion out of it. Okay. And I try to do my business this way too. Cause a lot of times, man, I feel like I've gotten screwed over on business and I've done deals where I've had to do this deal where you get like I could be the I'm going to be right deal. But the problem with that is it's not it's like the lesser of two evils. And I guess you could always say the ends always justify the means, and that's your own choice. But
Yeah.
for certain aspects, for me, I I feel concentration camps are bad. I feel that manipulating people is bad. I feel censoring people is bad. I feel locking down a nation, beating them up without giving them a trial is bad. And what I'm talking about is China. And I'm not even going to get into the Hunter Biden stuff because, like I said, until we actually get a real investigation, whatever, we're going to leave that to the side. Okay. That's not what I'm here for. What I
Yeah.
am here for, though, is this is the only president that I've seen in the last 20 years that's put pressure on them, that's brought this to light, is that. And I care about that more than I care about anything else. And I think people need to understand. And more, this is tied in with the American way of life because when we come into an economic problem like '08, like the coronavirus, like even the dot-com bubble, what we have the ability to do is to print the dollar. And we take it for
But
granted.
well, like talking about the America, or like you said you care about China, and Trump is like one of the only candidates that would put pressure on China. But then don't you bring back into like the factor that you want to put America first? Because in America, he's making America less American, for the sake of holding China accountable for what they're doing, right? Because everybody in Trump's cabinet, everybody in his campaign, everybody that comes with him wants to decrease the amount of democracy happening in our company, right? Or in our country, and he wants to undermine our elections, no matter how legitimate it is. He wants to increase his power at the expense of our system of checks and balances, right? He doesn't want to have to answer to anybody. So isn't he making our country more like something like, an extreme example would be like China or North Korea, right? So the reason he looks up to leaders of those countries like Russia is because those leaders have nobody to answer to, right? They just suppress, like Putin suppresses anybody that's gonna speak against him. He has people killed, and those are the people he looks up to. So while he's making China answer for things that they've done, in the meantime he's also making himself not answer for things that he would do in this country, you know. So that's my problem with saying it's America first, because then it's not America first when it comes to what he's doing to America, right?
I feel like Trump is, let's be honest, he's freaking what, like 73 years old. So even if he
Yeah.
were, like, let's say if he was the one that won the election, he's done after that. I mean, it's not, I think people put too much emotion behind Trump, and you got to understand, Xi Jinping is sitting back there, like we talked off air. He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
give a damn about Trump. Like it hurts
Just
him
wait.
right now, right? It hurts
Yeah.
China right now, but he's like, whatever, we'll get past this. We'll figure out a different avenue. We'll get another president in. And Trump, like I said, I think, if we're talking about his policies about making America first, making America great, I think that would have been a slogan that everybody could get behind. I just think he used it the wrong way. He did whistle call, and I think the wrong people got behind it in a sense. And I could see how that could, make people scared. I could definitely see that. I have friends that were on DACA that were here,
Yeah.
and they were literally legitimately scared. They were in fear that they were going to get kicked. And a few of them were actually my employees at our business, and they were great freaking people. And like I said, man, I can't defend the guy. I'm looking more towards the policy of strengthening America. And the reason why is because I feel like America is the last shining beacon of hope for democracy. And I could say that
But
you could.
he's taking that away, He's taking the American values of America away.
I don't
Because
think.
even though he's temporary, he wants to not answer to anyone during that temporary term, right? Because he wants, even though he obviously can't himself change the amount of terms he can serve.
Yeah,
Obviously, he has also joked about that, right? He said if he could, he would keep serving until he's dead, right?
yeah.
Because that's his whole ideal is becoming a dictator.
So
That's what he wants,
so what policy do you think has set us back?
As like
Democracy, or
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I think in general, because even
That's an attack, by the way. I'm just
oh
like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So I think like bringing my point back to Attorney General Barr, that he himself has no power in changing the way or the amount of power the executive branch has, right? He believes in unitary executive power, which means we explained how we talked about off air. how Trump doesn't have to answer to anybody until he's impeached or until he's reelected, right? He only has to answer to voters and then to the House and Senate, because that means he doesn't have to answer to Congress or anybody. Attorney General Barr, he himself doesn't have the power to do anything like that, obviously. But what I'm worried about is he's increasing the amount of sentiment we have towards a leader like that. Because right now, half of America is saying, yeah, we want someone that thinks that he should have every right to do what he wants, right? He said Article 2, Trump says in Article 2, it lets me do whatever I want, right? Okay. Quote, like exactly word for word. So now what happens is, because I'm pretty sure you agree, most voters in America are very uneducated, right? They don't look into like policies or like anything before they vote, right?
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, right? Like ideally that would not be the case, but that majority of voters, especially his base, he's making them think that it's okay to have a leader like this, right? So that's what I mean in the sense that he's making America less American.
I just feel like I feel like once again, like not to come off disrespectful, but I feel like you're really attacking. Yeah. You keep saying like their base, and you keep talking down to them. When you're trying to win somebody over, you can't like and like for example, I'm in that camp. So when I hear you say stuff like that, it makes I'm smart enough to realize like that's not what you're trying to say.
No, I'm not saying you, because you're obviously not going to do racist things, right? Because Trump says them, right? But I'm talking about the people that will.
No, but like I'm trying to say that's where you got to use a little bit more tact, right? Like sometimes, like I feel like you guys are coming from the right place, and I've agreed with you as far as his he has no tact. He doesn't, whatever. But I think this country there's a lot of divide because
because of him.
No, I think it's just I think it's because he was a champion that said, "Hey, I'm going to bring your jobs back." Regardless if he did or didn't, because you said the cold facts about, he said 50,000, he bought 15. I think that middle America was forgotten. I feel like we focused on, more of the cities. We focused more on these policies, and you got the middle of this nation saying, well, what about me? And I don't mean any disrespect by this or by any voter, but you could say that whatever they want to say about middle America, not having a high IQ, not being educated, not being whatever. Regardless, man, people are people. We got to treat people like people, and you have to listen to these people. And if these people are feeling this way, it's not the fact that they believe in what Trump's saying and he's racist. It's also like they're saying, "Well, shit, man, who the hell is gonna put me back to work? I was a coal mine. I was a fracker. I had food on my family's table. I felt good sending a check in the mailbox, like Tupac says, right? Feels good putting rent money in the mailbox. We're going to solar. Where am I going to get this job? What are we going to do? Well, you look around, you're like, well, shit, who the hell is here for me? Here comes the orange man. I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to make America great. I'm going to bring these jobs back. They stole your jobs. He touched them, right? He touched those people. They're like, I am so low. I've dealt with the opioid epidemic. My jobs have been shipped off. I've been forgotten by this nation. Everything is left. All the tech jobs, all the science jobs, all the intellectual jobs are in the city. I'm here fucking playing with corn. What am I doing? And you got these people saying, dude, this is not America. I used to have a job. I used to have I used to. Here comes the orange man. Hey, I'll solve everything. Just vote for me. And I feel like the left has forgotten those people. And it's not that those people are flawed or bad. I just think the left has to do a better job at touching those people, saying, hey, you don't need to get these industrial coal jobs back. For example, Biden's gonna bring you jobs by putting wind plants in the Midwest. Guess what? Where it's freaking windy. We're gonna put you back to work. We haven't forgotten you. And I think the real disconnect has been the left has forgotten how to touch those people, and he's tapped those people. So then when you got people coming on air saying anyone that voted for Trump is just a racist or just whatever. Sure, there's racist people that voted for Trump, but the majority of them aren't. They're just forgotten, and they're like, well, where the hell do I go to? Because if I voted for this guy, now I'm a racist. Now I'm feeling mad because I'm already feeling low. I'm already feeling down on society, already feeling like the elites are looking down on me. And then I got this, well, screw you. The way I could stick it to you, the only way I could stick it to you is I'm going to piss you off by voting in this guy. by just making this guy say whatever he wants. And then at home, you got nothing else going for you in your life. You lost your job, everything's shipped out. You lost your family, you whatever, and you're drinking beer, and you're like, yeah, Trump's fucking, I can't wait. Look at what he told that guy. Look at what he said. It's just pissed these people off, and they feel like that's the win for them. And I feel like we have forgotten them, and we need to figure out a way to teach them and say, hey, guys. Oh, sorry.
No, I was saying the point you made, like how they don't realize that what Biden's going to do is bring jobs to them by putting wind energy in like the Midwest where it is windy. So so that's what I'm saying. So we shouldn't have been voting for Biden the better decision in this instance, because they would be getting. I agree that the Democratic Party has done a horrible job at connecting with those people, right? They didn't care. Yeah. They didn't care about like that demographic because they assumed they're going to vote Republican anyways, right? So they didn't try to communicate with them. That's why Hillary lost, right? Because those people didn't like Hillary at all. And so that's what I'm saying. So like people, like you made the point that people are people, right? So that's what I'm like. Trump, for the majority of America, I think he doesn't want to treat people like people, right? I think he's only using those people in the Midwest as for their vote, and that's it, you know? He's going to say, I'm going to bring you guys jobs back, but he's not doing it to bring them the jobs back. He's doing it for his friends that are in the coaling industry, the oil industry, the fracking industry, right? Same for Biden. The reason he had been so hesitant to like say anything bad about fracking, even though it's environmentally bad, right, is because of his base and the people that are paying him that are from fracking. So what was the point that you made that talking down to Trump supporters? Yeah, I agree. Nobody should talk down to Trump supporters unless, like, where do you draw the divide where a Trump supporter is actually racist? Because that's what I think. Those people those are the ones that deserve to be talked down to. And I think that's where the divide in America has actually started to surface, right? That there's the divide between like people that are racist and not racist, right? And I think that divide was created by Trump because he made like, let's say this is like the middle line, right? Like there's racists on this side and then there's not racist, right? He's made the racists go further to the racist side. So that's where the divide has been created, in my opinion, because he's told them, right? He's told them it's okay to say things like how I said, like, go back to where you came from. It's okay to say things that aren't, PC, right? Politically correct. And he's making it seem like all those things that are, PC, politically correct to say is wrong. But in actuality, that's what's going to bring this country together. That's what's going to make people feel not excluded, right? People from communities of color, people from part of the LGBTQ plus community, all those people, the way to make them feel included is by not using the type of rhetoric that makes them feel excluded, right? So by teaching the excluders, which are, the racists in America, the ones that aren't accepting of people, the way to fix the divide is by making the exclusive people, like, teaching them that exclusivity is not the way, right? Because they're gonna keep saying we have a divide in America. There's America doesn't represent us, but that's because they're moving towards the wrong side of exclusivity. While everybody on the other side is pushing for inclusivity, right? That's what the Democratic Party pretty much is. Like, it's just asking people, like, it's asking people to respect their rights as a human being. It's not asking for anything extra. It's asking for equal rights, right? Like the same thing with the Black Lives Matter movement. Most people, I think, misunderstand, and like that misunderstanding is fueled by the media that shows that like Black Lives Matter is here to burn down your homes and like destroy suburban America. When in actuality, the Black Lives Matter movement is just asking for Black lives to matter the same as white lives, because historically Black lives haven't mattered, right? Historically in this country, even right now, right? Like, like there's bad cops that don't believe that Black lives matter, and that's what triggered all of this, right? And I agree, right? You're a cop, right? I agree that you treat people equally and fairly, and there are good cops, but just the whole fact that they're like a lot of people's response to Black Lives Matter is Blue Lives Matter, because that in my mind, obviously Blue lives do matter, because historically Blue lives haven't been shown to not matter, right? Cops haven't been discriminated against in over hundreds of years of history. And I think that's the main thing that they don't realize, and that's what the people in power, the media companies like Fox News, like Laura Ingraham or Tucker Carlson, the things that they're peddling, like Biden's gonna, like destroy suburban America. He's trying to make you think that they're gonna bring in crime, when in actuality, like all that's happening is a more diverse neighborhood, right? And in the same way, um, just the whole concept, like Mexicans are bringing like drugs and rapists into this country, because most people aren't, because obviously that does happen, right? The border, like our southern border, is
Arrested
more
a lot of
dangerous.
MS-13 members.
What was that?
I've arrested a lot of MS-13 members when I worked down in South LA. So there's definitely a lot
Yeah,
of people that come
yeah,
here.
yeah,
But
exactly. There is a lot, but I
majority,
think what was that?
majority of the people that come here just want a better life, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And then, but what Trump is saying is making their lives here worse. Like I have a lot of friends that are Mexican that their parents came, our parents, our parents came from a different country, right? What he's trying to do is kill that American dream of coming from another country, because his family was already here, right? He doesn't care about that. His family came as white immigrants. They seem like they belong. If somebody immigrates from a country that's white, it's like, okay, here, you look American, so you're American. But if your skin has melanin, or has melanin, then you aren't from here, right? If Rashida Tlaib and the rest of his AOC plus three, if they were white women, he wouldn't tell them go back to where they came from, even if they were born here. So I think that's pretty much what's, to me, that's what creates a divide in our country, is the rhetoric that tells white people, hey, it's us versus them, right? Like they're not American because they don't look like us. And I think that's what Trump is pushing for, And that's what he thinks he gets a response out of. And that's like the reason he pushed the birther movement, the reason he pushed for the Central Park Five to be executed. They're black teenagers, they were innocent, but he because of his predetermined prejudice against people of color, he was like, they're black, they're guilty just because they're black, and they should be executed, because the crime that was committed wasn't them, but it was so horrific, it made those emotions of like the need for justice for what happened. It was translated into hate for black people, right? And I think that's, personally, I think to me, I think the economy can take a hit like the economy can like take a hit, even if Biden does in some way like harm our economy. I think that hit is worth taking, just to have a president that you can look up to, and a president that doesn't actively choose to foster hate against some people in America, because those people are Americans still, right? And yeah, that's pretty much my point.
Damn, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean,
Yeah.
no, it's okay. I'll try to address it, and if I miss something, let me know.
Oh yeah, whatever you want to say,
I
man.
think you made some good points. Wow, I don't even know where to start there. So you said the economy.
To me, I think the economy is worth that, like the or at least America's standing. How you saying, like, right, because Biden would make America
I mean,
more friendly to China.
I want to be absolutely clear here. I don't want to make any preconceived notions of the Biden administration, because, in all
Okay.
fairness, he was the VP, right? It was
Yeah.
the Obama administration. So I don't want to sit here and say that the president, or the media's president elect. I mean, it got to be certified, but whatever. If he's most likely going to be our president, is going to do one thing or the other based on what he did as a VP, because he's going to have different powers. So I want to start off with a clean slate. I don't want to look back and say, well, he did this. No, let's just let's see what he does in the future. So you talked a lot right now about like a bunch of, it was kind of it was coordinated. So I don't agree with that. I think that if you destroy the economy, you're going to hurt minorities more than you're going to hurt the privileged.
Well, I don't mean destroy, because I think you agree Biden's not going to destroy the economy, right?
No,
Like I've seen many projections that show that Biden's economic plan is actually going to help us more than Trump's will. So
I think economically speaking, if we do another lockdown, we're screwed. And the Federal Reserve just did their minutes out, and there's clear, hard evidence where they laid out. They said, if we were to go on a lockdown like the EU went, we're screwed. Because you got to understand, there's a huge divide between Main Street and Wall Street. Wall Street's paper money. These guys got it. Like, it's fine. Like, even if American Airlines go bankrupt, they're not going away. They're just going to recreate. And the people that are on the rich side that got money, they'll say, oh, freaking great. We're going to pick this up. They're going to be fine.
Yeah.
People like us, man, people that own, like, gas stations and taquerias and bars and restaurants and mom and pop shops, we've amassed a lot of debt in this last 6 months. We've took on a lot of headache. We are at the breaking point. If we were to do another lockdown, we're not going to make it, brother. I'm sorry, we're not. And that's going to be like the ramifications of this is going to be extraordinary. Like, just you'll see. If you thought 2008 was bad, you will see what's coming. So we need strong leadership. And I'm not saying Biden can't do that, because if he's weak in economic policy, then he's going to bring someone in the cabinet that knows. And that's the great thing. It's not just one leader, know all, be all. You're going to bring great people around you, and let's see what he could do. I don't think he's dumb. He's been in politics for years. Give him a chance. Let's see what he does. But no, man, anytime you have a downturn in economic policy, you're going to push people to the other side. So you shouldn't be saying that. You should, because what's going to happen is the people that aren't well off are going to get even more pissed, and they're going to vote for another Trump 2.0 because he's going to come in and promise something. And you know what his only attacking point is going to be? Look what they did, right? So you got to bring that balance, because not everyone thinks like me and you do. We're not going to be able to think past this, right? So that's that's my personal opinion. We'll see. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe, people finally, our generation takes a turn and says, you know what, we dealt with this economic downturn. I don't know, but I'm just speaking off of like an economic standpoint and how probably regular people think that aren't informed. They're going to say, wow, I got fired. Oh, wow, I'm not being able to put food on the table. This has to be Biden's fault, right? Like, that's just the way they're going to think. And I think that's very dangerous for somebody who's trying to do better, whether it be Trump, whether it be whatever. You got to have a good economy. That literally goes hand in hand with re-election, right? So that's one point. So the BLM movement, in my all honest opinion, of course, I support BLM, but I think they got hijacked, and that's why I can't support them. I feel like when it first started, I felt this for years. Like, black people have been historically looked down upon, and not just American race, literally every race. Indians are some of the most racist people I've ever met. They look at black people and they look at them as second-class citizens. It's true. Okay. It's 100% true. We are lucky enough that we got educated enough, we got brought up enough, we have black friends. We realize, oh, black people don't eat people, because that's how uneducated Indian people think. They literally think that. They have these crazy, and Chinese people think that, and everyone thinks that. They just, unfortunately, and it's so sad, because it's just sad. It's just like, I don't even know how to put words behind it. But there's not a single person alive that I would think that's not just a crazy racist. I would say Black lives don't matter. I think all lives matter. And yes, they have been historically in America, and everyone has been. You got to understand one thing. When Irish Americans came over, they were looked down upon. When Catholics came over, they looked. Everyone dealt with their own thing. And in 2001, guess who got the heat? Right? It shifted. And there's always that pendulum that shifts, right? Because it's like being that kid in school that is always picked on. There's always that new kid, right? That's what I call it. It's the new kid theory. When the new kid comes in, everyone just picks on them, But I think Black Lives Matter got hijacked by Antifa. If you looked at the protest, I've seen so many videos that sometimes media outlets don't want to post that literally have black people saying, hey, man, cut that shit out. They will literally take the hammer or the weapon away from somebody trying to break a door and say, what the hell are you doing, bro? What the hell?
Exactly.
You don't need this shit on our media. You're making us look bad. You literally saw the video. I have it on my page that shows bricks suddenly appear next to windows. What the hell is that doing there? They're in the street saying, treat us like regular people. Why is it that black people have to have the talk, but no other race has to have the talk, right? There's no doubt in my mind I could get behind that. The thing that, made people go against the BLM, or people that are like, Republican or whatever, is the fact that Antifa got intertwined, and they look at Black Lives Matter. They write it off as, oh, that's just a communist push. That's a socialist push. It's not. I don't want to speak for them, but from my understanding is It was supposed to be a social justice push that says, hey, dude, we've been here. Just treat us like humans. Stop doing shit, because there are racist cops. There are good old boy clubs in the Midwest. There are. But the thing that's turned the media off is the fact that Antifa kind of got in bed with them, and they're the ones breaking shit. It's not the BLM people. The BLM people
But
are
I've also seen videos where they're actually, it's cops that are putting, like bricks in front of windows. It's cops that are posing as Antifa, right? I think Antifa is the, to me personally, I think the right is using Antifa as a scapegoat for the bad things that are happening during protests, right? They're saying because of Antifa, we're not going to support BLM, right? But I think what BLM actually is, it's the 93% of protests that are peaceful. There's also people that just love anarchy and are going to go out to protest and go break shit because they like doing that, right?
yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. That's not BLM. BLM is the push for like an end to police brutality, and the protests are a tool to get that message out there. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
if you're not protesting, then no one's gonna know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think Antifa is pretty much it's a scapegoat to say like this is why they don't want to support it. But I think behind that is really the people that are actually against Black Lives Matter, because there's a good number of people that actually genuinely like what is my stream only has 30 viewers right now, and there's people in here that are like genuinely racist, right? They're saying like the last yeah, but like also some of them are genuinely, they say like they don't support BLM for this reason or that, like they're pretty serious, you know what I mean? And I think that the existence of people that don't support BLM for the fact that they just don't think Black Lives Matter is dangerous enough for Black Lives Matter movement to need to be pushed to the forefront. Right?
And that's the only thing, is you need to differentiate that. And I think that I don't know how. Like, I mean, I'm kind of struggling with that. Like, how are they going to separate themselves as just like, hey, dude, we don't want no radical change. We don't want communism or something. We just really want you to say you're going to make a change that says you're going to give a damn about us. And I'll give you a good example. And this is coming from a cop. Like, here's the truth. We could send a soldier to Iraq, to Afghanistan, and I have a lot of friends in the military. I mean a lot of friends. Mm-hmm. And you have a combatant, and I'm speaking on their behalf, and I hope if anyone's streaming this or watches in the future, I don't mean any disrespect. I've not served. I've only served as a public servant, not like that. Thank you for your service and stuff, but this is just information that people have given me, so I want to make that clear. But when they were engaging in combatants or hostiles, you would have to give the hostile the benefit of the doubt. If somebody had something tucked underneath or whatever, it wasn't just like I saw the bulge. It's like you had to have a clear and concise vision. And I asked him, I was like, why is this policy? Because, we're not trained like that as cops. Why this policy? And he said, our mission here isn't necessarily to eliminate the enemy. Our mission here is to win the hearts and the minds. And that changed my perspective on things. Shouldn't cops' mission be to win the hearts and the minds? Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that the way law enforcement is going, I think in order to be a cop in today's society, I think, progressivism, this is why I do applaud it. You do need to push society forward. I think cops are just naturally going to inherently have to accept more danger. And that's going to, oh my God, this guy's an extremist. No, I'm saying, in this line of work, my man, we're always at a disadvantage. If you pause, you could be dead, okay? Because you're always at a disadvantage. And you're walking up in a car, there's been multiple stories where, you get shot, you don't know what you're walking up on. But, there's no easy way to say this. There's no right way to say this. The training has changed with mental health. We have in California been regressive. I think that should be statewide, by the way. If you get a call that says, hey, this person is known to be, black or whatever he is, but hey, there's, they're off their meds. You have to approach that differently than you would some guy saying, hey, this guy's going crazy in front of the store. I think it's on to our law enforcement officers, and they deal with a lot. But this is something else they're going to have to slowly accept, is you're going to have to take a little bit more inherent danger. That means you're going to have to think twice about, breaking the strap, as they call it. It's not an easy thing to swallow as a law enforcement officer, because I want to go home to my family. I do. And I want to put myself in a position where I do the job I need to do safely for myself and for the person and the public I contact. Because at the end of the day, we're public servants. We serve the public. And that doesn't mean a certain portion of the public, it means the whole public. You guys are the ones that ultimately give us the power. And there needs to be a middle ground. There needs to be a middle ground. You gave us the power. You need to let us execute that power. Okay? Because that's the only way law and order works. But at the same time, there are cops that are gun-ho that needs to be reeled in. You can still do the job as a law enforcement officer and have respect for the other person. You don't need to treat the other person as, I'm a cop, do exactly what I say. You could bring it down and still be a human, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And,
like the other day, I was dropping somebody off in front of my apartment, and I was like just in the street waiting, and like a cop comes up to me in front of me, like flashes his the spotlight right in my face for no reason, right? And he's like slowly approaching. I'm like, what is this dude gonna do, right? He comes up to my window, like I put my window down, he puts his window down. First of all, he doesn't say anything, right? He already has an attitude, and I was like, can I help you? And he's like, why are you in the road? And I was like, what do you mean why I'm in the road, right? Like he already had an attitude to me from like the start, and I think that's the problem. Like they talk down to citizens, like, oh, I'm in charge, you shouldn't be doing like whatever he had a problem with. I still don't know. He said I was in the road. That's what he had a problem with, and then and like I just said, okay, I'll just like park on the side, and I just like didn't want to stay in that situation, right? And I think because so like that's pretty much what I'm just saying. Like a lot of cops talk down to people because they think that's a position of power that deserves respect in itself. But I think the position of a cop is to earn respect from the community by protecting your community, by being like a key part in how the community is run, right? Protecting it from people that are actually bad. And I think what do you say?
But don't get me wrong. I wholeheartedly in my heart believe that majority of cops are good. There's always going to be that 1% are bad. And I'll give you an example how the thing that scares me is we keep seeing these marches, we're not seeing anything behind it. And, looking at this from a internal standpoint as being a cop, I think there is a way that we could start to address it. There's never going to be a system that's perfect. Let's get that straight. Like the book Utopia explains this. Like we are never going to reach utopia, but it doesn't stop. We shouldn't, as a society, give up on trying to do it because that's how you get better, right? But so
exactly.
here's my quarrel. Here's one step that I could say. The training is very difficult to be a cop, and basically you're getting paid on decisions on split second. Okay, so you can't judge a cop on after the fact because like, oh, I would have did this. No, you wouldn't have. Because think about the last time you got in a fight or you got scared or you're whatever, you're making the decision based on that elevation level. Now, let's take that aside. Let's take like these quarrels in order. I think the biggest problem is the disrespect. If you talk to somebody nice, if you treat them with respect, you're going to do good. Here's one implication that we could put in that I don't understand why every law enforcement agency doesn't have. All the agencies I've worked for, they've had this in place. But then again, California is very progressive. It's different when it comes to this. A lot of the Midwest and a lot of these, you've noticed, it hasn't really been a California problem. It's been more of a Midwest, East Coast problem. So I'm not talking down on them. I don't know their policies. I don't want to speak on it. I'm just saying, if you have a complaint filed against you that says, hey, this cop did me wrong. For example, the cop that talked to you with the flashlight. If you came up and say, hey, what are you doing? And you're like, sir, I'm driving or I'm walking. Like, what's the problem? And you say, whoa. It's like, well, sir, what's going on? What's your badge number? What's your name? And you write that down and you say, you have no reason to stop me, dude. What the hell are you doing? And then it's upon the citizen to call up, and they call up and they say, officer so-and-so, badge number so-and-so did this last night. I would like to file a formal complaint. Okay, boom, one formal complaint is filed. They'll listen to both sides as filed or not filed or whatever. But if this officer shows over the course of his or her career that they have consistently got these complaints and they have consistently had sustained complaints, because you get a lot of complaints. People are going to get mad because they get a ticket, right? They're going to be like, oh, they're going to give me a ticket. It's like, yeah, you probably deserve the ticket. But it's like, everyone's wearing a body camera. That should be policy number one. Every single cop should have a body camera. That's policy number one. Number two would be, if you have an officer that has sustained complaints, they probably shouldn't be a cop. And guess what? They probably shouldn't be able to leave this department and go work at this department. That is wrong.
Yeah, but isn't the current system is that is allowed? Because
Yes,
especially like one of the famous examples, George Floyd's the cop that
yes,
killed George Floyd. He
yes,
had like repeated complaints like for racial reasons, right?
yes.
But I think so like that like brings me back to my point that the party that's going to keep those people accountable and like try to push for change is the Democratic Party, or at
But you
least
can't.
Biden, right?
I'm a Republican. I've ran for public
Yeah,
office. I'm going to
yeah,
continue to. Hopefully, in the future, I'm going to run for public. I'm going to run for office again as a Republican.
yeah, yeah,
I just
yeah,
think the messaging needs to be different. You can't just paintbrush it and say, "Oh, all Republicans are going to." There's a lot of Republicans if they bought common sense laws, even including common sense, gun laws. But that's a different topic. But if you bought common sense laws and say, "Hey, dude, how about we make a freaking law that's federal that says if you want to be a law enforcement agency in the United States of America, regardless of what state you are, how about this? If you fire somebody and it's sustained for multiple complaints, that person can't go be a cop anywhere else. They're done being a cop. Go
yeah,
try something else, but you're done being a cop."
exactly.
I don't think you're going to have a lot of pushback because I think the problem with the left is they're trying to paintbrush everybody. And I think if you want to get people on your side, you guys got to stop doing that. You guys got to figure out a way to say, hey, we're not saying we know everything. We're just saying, hey, see this side of it. How about you come join us? Because the second you just said right now, let's face it, this party is this, you're dividing us. Because
But
how do you,
that's
as a
but
Republican, I don't hold those values because I do hold those values, and maybe
yeah,
my values in the Republican Party are more just on the physical side, the money side, but on the
exactly.
libertarian side, like I'm for abortion, right? I'm for that stuff. I'm for gay rights. I'm for transgenders. And you're like, what? I thought you were a conservative. Yeah, I'm conservative when it comes to the financial sides and how we spend money, how we go about society. But you just painted me with a brush right now. So now, like,
But I
anything
was
you
I
say,
wasn't saying you specifically, but I'm saying Republicans because what do you like in just general? What represents a party or like a group is their leadership, right? So Republican leadership right now doesn't want
yeah,
to
you're fair.
change,
That's
yeah,
that's fair.
because
That's
that's the point I'm trying to make. Not individual Republicans, because I know there's a lot of Republicans that are great people. Like McCain was a Republican. John McCain would never, right? He had an amazing concession speech to Obama. He discouraged any of his voters or supporters from saying anything bad about Obama, right? If anything I say like paintbrushes, that's not what I mean to do. I'm just saying right now leadership in the Republican Party is horrible in respects to that. And like again, I'm going to go back to Mitch McConnell and Attorney General Barr. Like they've gone on record as saying cops deserve respect just because of their office, and like citizens should respect them. When like in actuality, it's like the other way around. Like a cop doesn't like just earn respect by just becoming a cop, right? Because you don't know who what type of person they are.
You earn that badge every single day.
Exactly.
Honor.
Exactly.
It's a privilege. It's not a right. It's a
Yeah.
privilege. And I
Yeah.
think any cop that loses that attitude that says, "Oh no, this is a right," they need to be out. It is a privilege to put on the uniform. It's like you got to understand by cops too. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm obviously passionate about this. Like in the sense of
Yeah.
like
Go ahead.
you know, dude, being a cop is not easy, bro. No one's ever happy to see you. Just think for 1 second. Let me put you in my shoes. Anyone that calls me, either they've been a victim or they're about to go to jail. I don't get the, hey, buddy, good job today. No, like the amount of stress that cops have put on. And you know what? I am for creating other forms of policing. Do not defund the police. If anything, they need more training and you need more money to do different avenues. For example, let me give you an example. For example, how about you do crisis interventions? How about you make a team for crisis intervention? So you got all these college kids that got these philosophy degrees that know how to talk to people that are probably better suited on an emotional background, right?
Yeah.
How about you
Yeah.
tell them, hey, if we get a call where it needs to be neutralized, for example, someone's suicidal, you are just that is right. You're setting a cop up because you have suicide by cop, right? You get a call. It's Christmas Eve because that's when the highest suicide rates are. Dispatch calls you, says, hey, 123 Fake Street, there's a guy threatening to kill himself, whatever, he has a knife. Okay. Now I'm showing up as a cop and I'm saying, hey, brother, like put the knife down, like I'm trying to do my best at training. The last person he wants to see is me, a person of authority, someone that's whatever. Maybe that's better if I show up and I say, hey, listen, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what the hell's going on in your life. I'm just here to help. And I know maybe I'm not the person you want to talk to, but we got someone here. We got someone here that wants to talk to you, but I need you to do me a favor. Do me a favor, just put the knife down, let me talk to you. Maybe that's a better way
Yeah,
of doing things.
exactly, 100%. And that's what I mean. Isn't that what Biden's doing?
I don't know. I can't say that.
Yeah,
I can't say that's what he's doing because that party did say, like, there's so much rhetoric out there. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to judge anything about Biden or say anything about Biden because I want to start off with a clean slate. Let's see what happens January 18th, the next day he takes office. Let's see the initiatives he put forward, and I'll judge him on that. And if he's right, I'm going to say, Jesus, you know what? This guy was right. He's doing the right thing. Give it time. Or if he did something wrong where it's like, that's not right. I mean, you can say what you want about the Democratic Party, but I'm pretty sure in Minnesota they did defund the police and they bought them back, right? The city council did that, right? So,
yeah,
and I'm all for experiments. I'm all for trying things out, right? But I also like to be I like to be logical and rational on things. For example, I don't think, and this is coming from a cop and someone who is conservative that has liberal views. That, like, for example, Oregon legalizing drugs. The war on drugs hasn't worked, right? Let's try something different. If it goes horribly wrong, cut it out. Let's go back. We can always go back to the way things were, right? But the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over and expecting a
yeah,
different result. So
yeah,
I don't, and that's another thing. That's another thing why, for Black Lives Matter is concerned. Their slogan shouldn't be defund the police. It's same thing. The problem with Trump and the Republican Party is the same thing the left is facing. It's the delivery of the message. Let's just be a little bit more tactful. Maybe we don't say things like defund the police, right? And scare people like, oh my God, we're not going to have. How about, because I think what they mean about defund the police is let's use some of this money into other avenues, right? That's what they're
yeah.
trying to say.
To fund things that prevent crime.
Okay, so let's
Yeah,
reword that and make it sound like, hey, no, police are still going to be funded. If crime happens, if you're about to get robbed, if you did get robbed, there's going to be a cop that shows up. But we're also going to add more money to do this program that we think will be better for citizens. If you worded it that way, you'll get more support. If you word it as defund the police, someone on the left that could really go after a low information voter and say, see, they're trying to get rid of cops. They're trying to get rid of cops. You can't vote for this party because they're trying to get, that's not what they're trying to do. They're not trying to say we're trying to
yeah,
get rid of cops. They're just trying to say we're trying to add more to the cops' tool belt. Now you see how those two things are different right there. I just said we're trying to add more to the cops' tool belt versus, oh, we're trying to fire this cop. And I think that's something that I've learned from 2016 to 2020. It's all about the messaging. How can you
yeah,
get to the most amount of people to make it sound, and I'm not disingenuous, but make it sound like, hey, no, listen, we legitimately have the best interest for you in mind. And if you can't deliver that message, you're going to lose people. You're going to have this divide. And when you have this divide, it's just not good for anybody. Everything goes up. And to
yeah,
me, that's what I've noticed in the last 4 years is if Trump would have not been the way he is, not spoke the way he is, I think a lot more people would have voted for him. I genuinely do. Or it would have been a lot more tighter. It wouldn't have been 73 to 70. It would have been 71.5 to 71.5. I think if Biden wouldn't have taken on these more, because the truth of the matter is majority of Americans aren't extremists. Okay. They like the status quo. Yeah, they want change, but they don't want change like this, right? They want change like this, right? And if you could
yeah,
deliver this, they're going to be for you because everybody wants to move forward as society. But when you try to do this and you try to just bring everybody along with you, it scares the freaking hell out of people because human psychology has proven we hate change. Think about the times in your life as a kid when you changed schools, when you lost friends, or you went from elementary school to junior high to high school to college. You were scared to death of that change because it was the unknown. We don't know where we're going. Us as human beings, it's been rooted in us. We like knowing things. We like the same.
yeah,
Anytime there's a change, we're, oh my God, what's going to happen? There's fear mongering, this, all that. If we could slowly change and bring them along and not make people feel like this is going to be the end of the world, the end of your country, you're going to get people to side with you. And I think
yeah,
that the left or the right, if either party could figure out how to effectively communicate to the masses in a way that it's not extreme one way to the left and extreme one way to the right, because people are right here. They're like me and you. They're like, oh, we're leaning a little bit more, this way, but let's hear this side out too. Anytime you get this, where it's like to the left or hard to the right, you're going to see the opposite polarization, and that's what happened
yeah,
with Trump. Is you saw opposite polarization. You need to work on your delivery, and you gotta deliver it in a way that you're not talking down to anybody, even the right.
Yeah.
The right's not going to win anybody by saying, "Oh, the left are idiots. Look at these liberal." You're going to piss them off, even if they're wrong. You're going to piss them off, and the left, you say, "Oh, these guys aren't smart. They're just they're in the towns. They're not educated. They don't know what's best for them." You're going to piss them off. You get these emotions. You need to figure out a way to get the emotions out of it. Talk about the facts. Talk about what's legit, and use logic, ration, and reason, and slowly bring them over to your side, and then you're going to have a better nation. But whatever party does that first is going to be the party that leads. Because if we keep having this thing where we keep saying, no, we're right and these guys are all idiots, left or right, you're going to have that divide. When it says, hey, you know what? We want to listen to you and we want to bring you to our side. Okay, why do you feel the way you feel? Why did you vote for Trump? What can we do to help take some of those policies, bring them onto our side? Or the other way, why did you vote left? What can we do? Oh, you care about student loans? Okay, well, maybe we need to fix that. Maybe we need to address that. Then all of a sudden you're going to get, and that's how, anytime you have just one policy, one person, you're always going to get people that are fighting for the middle. And I honestly, I think there should be more than just two parties. I think the two-party system is insane to me. But if you don't listen to the masses, if you don't listen to the people in the middle, like for right now, the Republican Party, they lost, okay? No matter what happens, they lost. It's clear as day. They got 3 million more people on that side than this side. So they have to ask themselves, hey, if we want to stay in power, what do these people want? Oh, they want common sense gun laws. They want universal background checks. Oh, they want this, they want this, they want this. Okay, well, maybe we can't give them everything at once, but maybe we could change our policy on this one thing to bring a little bit more people to our side. And that's how a democracy should work, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know. I'm just a fucking...
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and and going back to like the reallocating of funds, from policing to prevention of the reasons that they need policing. Somebody in chat was saying like, how is a social worker going to help you when you're being robbed at gunpoint? Like the point is to have more social workers.
Situations. Huh? That's all situations.
Yeah, exactly.
You're getting robbed. Someone who's a social worker is not going to help you, but
exactly. But like those social workers that you're saying are gonna help you be robbed at gunpoint, they're gonna be part of the reason that you don't get robbed at gunpoint in the first place, right? Because social working and like the main reason for crime, or like the main variable that goes along with crime in America is poverty, right? So once you alleviate poverty, it's gonna decrease the amount of crime especially in a neighborhood, right? Once that neighborhood's economic standing increases, crime is gonna decrease, and I think that. So the pretty much the main point that defund the police is trying to make is like stop or decrease the amount of funding that you're going to put into solving a problem once it's already happened, and more money into preventing those problems.
Can I say that right there? Like I said 100 times before, I do not think that defunding the police is the problem. So you have two aspects. You have community policing, and you have this. If you like, we could dive more into this, or
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there's multiple things, guys. Like, so when we were taught, in the academy, there's I want to start off with the basics. So there's such thing as community policing, and you have proactive versus reactive. And one of the fears in the law enforcement community is when you assert policies that limit people from being, or for cops from being proactive, and we become reactive, that crime goes up. And there's also such thing as the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. So the spirit of the law is like, hey, these laws were intended to do, this. But the spirit of the law says you shouldn't always just ticket everybody because they need to be ticketed. You know what I mean? So those are the different things. Now, I 110% disagree when it says defund the police. I think if anything, we need more funding. Okay, cops need to be trained more. If anything, extend their academy times. Maybe show them how to talk to people. Maybe show them tactics, how to do things.
Yeah, crisis management.
And it's not that we need more funding for cops, like crazy funding. I also think we need to allocate something for social workers, because the truth of the matter is, and here's the truth, and I don't know how it is for the nation, but for us, we deal with a lot of homeless. Okay, here in California. Like, you got drug abuse for multiple reasons. They're down in their life. They feel like they can't come up. And some of them are using it because that's all they want to do. Okay, so I'm not trying to say it's all bitty bad. A lot of them are doing it because it's what they want to do. But these guys are the source of the problem. So a lot of the times, I'll go to a call and, it's, a homeless man broke someone's window because he wanted to, steal $1 out of the car. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, $1. And, we take this person, and this person's all messed up, man. I mean, they're dirty, they're, whatever. And it puts a tax on our system because now I'm wasting my time, dealing with this problem when shouldn't be a cop's problem, or they're mentally ill. We literally have people that are mentally ill that literally need real help. And we are just putting them through this system where people like me are dealing with them on a daily basis. Then I take that person and then I take them down to the hospital first, right? So now they're getting, taxed on Medicare and Medicaid, and they get cleaned up. Then we take them to the jail, which is crazy because they get charged more dollars. And it's like, when this whole thing is done, we literally spent like $10,000 of taxpayer money on the same guy. And in a week, I'm going to go back to the same guy. So it's like, Jesus Christ, if you think about the amount of times I've interacted with the same person, I've probably spent $60,000, $70,000. Don't you think there's a better way to spend that $60,000 or $70,000? How about we help this guy get a stable home? How about we help
exactly. Affordable housing.
And these are issues that I could get behind. But like I said, they need to be done practically and logically, and we need to figure out a way to do this. And, when it comes to real hard crime, some of these cases, it's split second. It's hard. I don't want to, in our career, we call it Monday morning quarterbacking, right? When you look at the quarterback, I'm sure everyone's watched football and you're like, oh, he should have made that throw. He should have made that. He should have, you're the quarterback. You get the ball snapped to you, and you literally have what the average time in the NFL is 3 seconds to make a decision, right? You're going to pass it to your slot receiver. You're going to go, the X, or you're going to go to the Y, or you're going to throw it away. That's what a cop is. They get the live ball, and they don't get the time of slowing things down. And that's where training comes in, because there's a lot of situations that cops deal with that you could slow things down. Let me give you an example. Like I said, I'm sorry. I do not mean to Monday morning quarterback. So any cops in the future listen to this, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there's different ways to handle this. Let's look at the Atlanta situation, right? The Atlanta situation where you had those two cops, and there was the drunk African-American that ended up fighting, grabbed the taser, turned around, took the taser, and the cop shot him and stuff, right? Some of the tactics that, I like, when I've arrested people, I've said, hey, after I bounced them out, we call them, like their DUI, whatever. I say, hey, I got one more test for you. This is lying or whatever, but it's better for everybody. In the sense, I'll say something like along the lines like, hey, we got to do this breathalyzer. I'm just going to hey, you're not under arrest right now. And by the way, cops can lie, and that's okay. I don't know if not a lot of people know that, but you're allowed to lie if it's for the betterment of whatever, especially interrogation. But I could say something like, I would have handled the situation a little bit more tactfully, right? And said, hey, brother, you're not going to jail or anything, but unfortunately, I got to give you a breathalyzer, and policy says I got to put you in handcuffs. So let me just put you in handcuffs real quick. It's going to take 2 seconds. I'm going to breathalyze you. I don't think you're drunk. I'm going to let you go, by the way. And he says, oh, yeah, okay, I'm going to. Boom, boom, cuffed. Never would have fought him. Never would have gone to that situation. And never would have. He would have been mad, angry, pouting. I would have been like, okay, pout all you want, but you're in cuffs. You're going to jail. I'm sorry you broke the law. These are different tactics that we could teach. These are different things that we could do. And we're learning together. We're growing together. We're part of a community, And I'm not saying that law enforcement, the way it is right now, is 110% right. And you should absolutely. No, dude, you should always challenge positions of authority. Like, if we ever get into a world where we say, no, this one agency, this one president, this one thing is 100% right, everything they do is right, that's a fucking scary time. That's a scary time in a society. You should never get.
And isn't that what we're living in right now, though? The party.
We have a lot of opposition. We do have media hold Trump accountable, and we need that. You can hate all you want for ridiculing him, but you need that. If you don't have ridicule, that's when I would be scared.
Exactly.
Holy shit! Things can never be that perfect, right? You have to have ridicule, and as a conservative, sometimes I watch the left and I'm like, oh, this is just blowing out of proportion. But guess what, bro? You need to hear all sides. You can't just say, oh, my guy's right all the time. Maybe you need to hear what the hell the other side's saying, and you need to listen to it, because there's more than just one person saying it. That should be a cue. No, I mean, I don't know. I just went on a tangent. I'm sorry.
You're good. Yeah. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna end the stream now. 2 hours. I think is a good amount of time to talk. Do you want to say anything, like, to end it off?
I just want to say, my plug is at Johal_capital on IG. So if you want to follow it, I am right leaning, guys, but I try to keep an open mind. And I honestly think like stuff like the AOC's list and stuff like that, that's not going to bring us together. I think the only way to move forward is go through the courts. We'll get this thing done. If Biden's our president, he's our president. Give him a fair shot. Give him a clean shot. Judge him on what he does. And in 4 years, if you didn't like it, go vote. That's the way it should be. Just like they voted Trump out. You didn't like it, we go vote. We hold people accountable. And I would just say, I would just encourage this. If you are feeling so strongly and so passionately about one way, then I think that you owe it to yourself, not to anybody else, but to yourself, to at least follow one person that's alt-right or right-leaning, even if you will always disagree with everything they say, right? Even if you're like, what the hell, this person's an idiot, comment on their page. Because maybe you could get one person to change their opinion, right? You could get in a conversation with somebody. And if you're all the way to the right and you hate what the left is saying, just follow a couple of people from the left. Just hear what they have to say. Just try to keep an open mind, because I think that's what's really killing us right now. I think what's really killing us right now is the inability to keep an open mind and say, why does this person feel this way? And I think when you ask that question, you'll get a better understanding of the person, and then you'll get a better understanding, well, how can I bring this person more to the middle? We need to work to get to the middle. And that's really this whole conversation. That's what it's been about. I think me and you have both agreed that, we both have got, like, both parties have gotten a little bit more to their sides, left and to the right, and they've anchored in, and we need to bring this country together. The only way to bring it together is to come to the middle and see the other side and say, I don't 100% agree with everything you're saying, but I could pick 1 or 2 points, and I could pick 1 or 2 points. Let's work on these things. And once these things are resolved, then we can address bigger and bigger issues. And when we get to that point, we're going to constantly have divide. We're going to constantly have argument. And you know what, man, I really appreciate this, because this whole time you've been really respectful of me, and you haven't made me feel like, put me down in any way. Even though I've told you I voted for him, you didn't make me feel lesser. And I don't think I've made you feel that way either. And hopefully I took something away from this, which, I hope you did too. And it's made you grow just a little bit. It's made me grow just a little bit. And it's going to take conversations like this to make, our world grow. Otherwise,
that's the goal.
You can't have it one way, because if me and you just said, hey, the sky's blue. Okay, great. There's no change. We need to constantly progress. And that only comes with a little bit of friction. It's okay to disagree.
Yeah, I agree. Perfect. For sure. Well, thanks for being on this live stream, man. Good talking to you.
Was this the longest stream you did?
I mean, we did like a 5-hour stream on election night, but it wasn't a debate. It was just, just hanging out. But I think this is definitely the longest one so far.
Yeah, it was pretty good viewership. All right, brother. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your time, man.
All right, see you, man. Good night. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Do you guys want to talk about anything else? It's okay. Yeah, I agree. It's not okay it's okay not to disagree. It's not okay to disagree on human rights. Yeah. There. Most of Trump's lawyers, I was just reading today, most of his lawyers were saying, like, or at least the firms that he's suing with are saying, like, they don't want to take this case because they were looking at, like, amount of voter fraud that was taking place, and they know they're not going to win. Yeah. I think he supports, like how you said, financially right, but socially left. And I think The only part that the whole point is try to have someone in office that's is too much for it. The whole point is to have somebody in office that you can hold accountable, and it's obviously not Trump. I think you're right. Thank you. Well, all right. If you guys have any suggestions for who I should debate next, I think I have one person that I DM'd today. They said they'll be willing to do it, so I'll have that like pretty soon. I think this person's like way more Trump, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. We'll see who else we can have on later. See ya.